Greetings to everyone. Welcome to the video lesson of chapter number 2 of the book Hornbill, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together by Gordon Cook and Ellen East. To begin with the chapter, let us have a quick introduction of the story. The narrator of the story, Gordon Cook, was very fond of adventurous activities. So here in this story, he had described his experience of voyaging in the southern Indian Ocean. In July 1976, Gordon Cook, along with his wife Mary and children, son Jonathan and daughter Suzanne, set sail for Plymouth, which is in England, to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. They had been preparing and honing their seafaring skills for the past 16 years. You can see on your screen, here is a picture of Gordon Cook's family and the first voyage of Captain James Cook. Now we will meet the characters of the story. Gordon Cook, narrator of the story, Mary Cook, his wife, Suzanne, 7 years old daughter, Jonathan, 6 years old son, Larry Vigil and Herb Ziegler, 2 crewmen. In this lesson, we will come across many complex terms related to seafaring. So we must have a look at the various parts of the ship to have a better understanding of the chapter. Here it is. Mainmast. A tall pole in a ship that supports the sails. Zip sail. This is a triangular sail. Hull area. This is the main part of the ship that goes inside the water. Stern. Back end of the ship. This is the back part of the ship. Boom. This is again a long pole. Starboard. This is the right side of the ship. Mainsail. This is the front big sail of the ship. Now let us discuss something about the Wave Walker. Wave Walker was the boat on which they were sailing. It was 23 meters long, 30-ton wooden hulled boat. It was professionally built and tested for 16 years in the roughest weather. Children, now let us discuss the first part of their journey. The first part of their journey, which was 150,000 kilometers journey, passed pleasantly and very peacefully as they sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. Before heading east, the narrator hired 2 crewmen, Larry Vigil, who was an American, and Herb Ziegler, who was Swiss, to help them tackle one of the world's roughest seas, that is the southern Indian Ocean. This shows the presence of mind of the narrator. We will understand this lesson in terms of dates. What happened on which date is what we are going to discuss. December 25, 1976 to January 2, 1977. They encountered gales. Gales means strong winds on the second day of Cape Town. Size of the wave was alarming, as high as their main mast. On December 25, they celebrated Christmas Eve with a Christmas tree despite atrocious weather. Atrocious means bad weather. See children, the family celebrated New Year's Day in such an ominous atmosphere. What a tremendous optimism they present. They also celebrated the New Year's Day and reasoned the weather to be changed, but it did not happen for good. This shows their optimism. This shows their courage to face the difficulties in such atrocious weather. On January 2, the waves were gigantic. Gigantic means very huge in size. They were sailing with only a small zip and were still making 8 knots. Knots is a unit of speed in seas and air. To slow down the boat, they dropped the storm zip and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. See children, they actually, what they did? They tied a rope on the back side of the ship, like this way. Okay, the stern area we discussed about, it is the back part of the ship. They double lashed everything, went through their life raft skills, attached lifelines, donned oilskins and life jackets. Here you can see on your screen life jackets, lifelines, oilskin. Oilskins are waterproof clothes. Next is the life raft. Here you can see on your screen life raft. 6 p.m. onwards, the weather grew silent. Cook considered it as an indication of the impending disaster. This was an ominous atmosphere, very fearful, scary was the scene, as if a disaster was approaching. A gigantic wave approached the ship. The size of the wave was twice of any ordinary wave. It was as high as the main mast, as you can see on your screen. As the wave walker faced the wave, the deck was shook by an explosion, as you can see in this picture. A torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. The narrator's head smashed into the wheel. He was flown overboard and sank below the waves. As he approached his death, he lost consciousness and thus felt peaceful. He felt very peaceful and calm and accepted his approaching death. But fortunately, his head popped out of water and he saw the wave walker nearly capsizing with horizontal mast. Nearly capsizing, as you can see on your screen, capsizing means overturned with mast horizontal. His lifeline jerked taut. Jerk taut means it grew tight. It became difficult for the narrator to breathe. He grabbed the guardrails and sailed through the air into the main boom of the ship. He was badly injured. His left ribs had cracked. Mouth was filled with blood and broken teeth. Somehow, he found the wheel and lined up the stern for the next wave. On January 2, water had been filled everywhere in the ship. Water everywhere. So, the front hatch, the front door was thrown open. Mary took to the wheel as the narrator went scrambling for the hatch. Now, Larry and Herb, the crewmen, were pumping the water out of the ship like madmen. As you can see on your screen, this was the situation at that time. The whole starboard side bulged inwards. The particulars, including clothes, crockery, charts, sloshed in deep water. Now, naturally, children, the narrator was also worried about his children. So, this is a natural instinct of any person you would expect. The narrator went to the children's cabin to confirm about their well-being. Sue told him about a bumped head that she had. But he didn't have time to worry about bumped heads. He found a hammer, canvas, and screws to repair the broken starboard. Somehow, he managed to stretch the canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across holes. Children, there were holes like this, okay, on the starboard. So he secured the holes by stretching waterproof hatch covers. Okay, like this, children, he covered open holes, okay, using waterproof canvas. The hand pumps had blocked due to debris floating about the cabins, and the electric pump also got short circuited. The narrator used another electric pump that was under the chart room floor, and it did work. They constantly worked the radio but couldn't get any replies to their mayday calls. Mayday call is a distress call that is used to signal a life-threatening emergency, usually on a ship or a plane. Sue showed more of her injuries to her parents. When asked for the reason for the delay in showing her injuries, she said that she did not want to disturb her father while he was trying to save all of them. This shows her courage. On January 3, water was sufficiently under control for them to take rest in shifts. But still, there was tremendous leak somewhere below the water line. The leak was below the water line. Cook discovered that the main rib frames, you can consider it as skeleton of the ship, were almost damaged, and the starboard was held just by a few cupboard partitions. Wave Walker couldn't continue till Australia because of the damage done. He calculated that they could hope to reach the Isle Amsterdam, an island which was French scientific base. Now they headed towards the only hope, Isle Amsterdam. On January 4, they had a sigh of relief. After 36 hours of constant pumping, now they had to just deal with the last few centimeters of the water. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the hull apart. So, they hoisted the storm ship and headed towards the islands. They had their first meal in the last 2 days. They ate corned beef and cracker biscuits. But the respite was short-lived. After 4 p.m., weather again started to deteriorate. On January 5, by dawn, weather was atrocious again. Narrator went to comfort children, assured children that they could make it. Children displayed exemplary courage. Jonathan said, "We are not afraid to die if we can all be together." These wordings of a 6-year-old boy have become the title of this lesson. On January 5 again, narrator was inspired by his children. To protect weak starboard side, he made the undamaged portion of the hull face the waves. He used improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and 2 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. Children, see, this is the undamaged portion of the hull. The narrator tried to make this undamaged portion of the hull face the upcoming waves so that this damaged portion can be saved. Okay. He used improvised sea anchor. The anchor is used to prevent the ship from drifting. The anchor and barrels shows his resourcefulness. That evening, he sat together with Mary, holding her hands as if the end was very near. On January 6, the final day, Wave Walker rode out of the storm. Narrator tried to get an idea about their location. He did so by working on wind speeds, changes of course, drift and current. When he did so, he was joined by Sue, who gifted him a card having funny caricatures of his and Mary. She tried to enlighten the atmosphere by this. She wanted to hope for the best. These are the caricatures. Caricatures means cartoons. He had lost his main compass and was using a spare one without corrections for magnetic variations. After many calculations, the narrator at 2 p.m. went on and ordered Larry to steer a course of 180 to 185 degrees. If they were lucky, they could expect to see the island by 5 p.m. Now they get out of the storm. He tried to determine their exact location. On January 6 again, the narrator went to his bunk and astonishingly and surprisingly he slept. He woke up at 6 p.m. and supposed that they had missed the island. But then Jonathan came to him along with Sue and wanted to hug his father. On being asked for the reason, he told him that he was the best daddy and captain in the world. He did not know why Sue and Jonathan were praising him, as he had missed the island. Narrator was at first surprised and perhaps afraid also, but then he came to know that they have arrived the island. But when he came to know that they have reached the island, he was very happy and very surprised also. Isle Amsterdam. The island is located in the southern Indian Ocean. The children compared the island to Battleship. The narrator described it as the most beautiful island in the world because it saved his and his family's life. Now he could repair his ship and continue his journey. The island had 28 inhabitants who cheered as they helped the family ashore. That island was just a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, but still he called it the most beautiful island. Now, let us discuss various themes of the lesson. Cowards die many times before their deaths. You have guessed it. Yes, it's from Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. It continues as, the valiant never taste of death but once. Sheer determination is the key to success. Unity is strength. Optimism helps to endure the direst stress. Never give up. Beyond fear lies victory. Do that work in which you are afraid, that you can end fear only by facing fear. There is only victory ahead of fear. Children, you have learned to write a travelogue also. What is a travelogue? A film, book, or illustrated lecture about the places visited by or experiences of a traveler. Here are some important points to recapitulate. Thank you, dear students. Take care. Stay safe.